Welcome back. Or if this happens to be your very first visit, today we're stepping into the psychology behind connection, attraction, and the quiet emotional cues that shape how other people experience being around you. We're going to unpack something that feels simple on the surface, but gets overlooked constantly, a small shift in awareness capable of turning an ordinary moment into something unforgettable. Before we go any further, pause and think back on your own experiences. Have you ever been near someone, doing nothing dramatic, barely even talking, yet the moment still felt intense, almost electric? Maybe it was a glance, a pause, or a breath shared just a bit too close. You couldn't quite put your finger on it, but you felt it happening. That's precisely what we're digging into today, not tactics, not manipulation, but genuine understanding of how the human mind and body naturally react when the right signals line up. Here's the truth most people completely miss. Attraction is rarely constructed through big, obvious moves. It surfaces in quiet spaces, the subtle pauses, the near misses, the tiny shifts your brain registers before conscious thought even has time to catch up. Part of the reason certain kinds of touch feel so powerful comes down to how the nervous system is built. The body isn't uniformly sensitive across every inch of it. Certain areas carry a denser concentration of nerve endings, meaning stimulation there sends stronger, faster, more emotionally charged signals straight to the brain. But what makes this even more compelling isn't purely physical sensitivity, it's interpretation. When touch lands in these particular zones, the brain doesn't file it away as ordinary. Instead, it links it to closeness, intimacy, and emotional weight. That's the exact point where something physical starts morphing into something profoundly psychological. Picture this scenario playing out in real life. You're sitting near someone you feel at ease with. Conversation moves naturally. There's warmth, a sense of comfort, nothing strained. Then the distance between you shifts, subtly, not obvious, not dramatic, just enough for your mind to pick up on it. Suddenly, your awareness sharpens. You become conscious of your own breathing. Their presence feels more vivid. Even the gap between you seems to carry a charge. That small shift alone is enough to switch on something deeper inside the mind. This is exactly where people misread attraction most often. They assume it demands doing more, when in truth, it's about noticing what's already quietly unfolding beneath the surface. The skin itself plays a major role here, particularly in regions where it's thinner and more reactive. The neck, the jawline, the small space just behind the ear, these areas carry heightened sensitivity because their nerves sit closer to the surface. Even the faintest touch in these zones can feel amplified, not because of any added pressure, but simply because of how rapidly the sensation travels to the brain. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. The response isn't purely physical. The brain instantly attaches emotional significance to that sensation, linking it to trust, closeness, and something deeply personal rather than casual. That's precisely why a gentle, well-timed moment can land with far more force than something rushed or intense. Now consider this insight. It might completely reshape how you view these interactions. The brain frequently reacts more powerfully to anticipation than to the action itself. Research into the psychological reward system reveals that when we anticipate something, dopamine gets released, the very same chemical tied to pleasure, motivation, and excitement. But here's the crucial part, that release often peaks before the moment even arrives. So what does that mean in day-to-day life? It means the build-up, the pause, the almost. That's precisely where emotional intensity truly takes shape. Think back to a moment when something meaningful felt like it was on the verge of happening, but didn't unfold right away. Maybe someone leaned in, then paused. Maybe eye contact lingered a second longer than expected. That uncertainty, that what happens next feeling is exactly where the mind becomes fully absorbed. And once the mind locks in, the experience becomes something that sticks. This explains why slow, intentional movement carries more weight than quick, impulsive action. When something happens too fast, the brain simply doesn't have the time to process it. There's no build-up, no emotional layering, it just slips by. But when a moment unfolds gradually, the brain starts gathering details, breathing patterns, small shifts in posture, the warmth of proximity, even silence begins carrying meaning. Suddenly, something simple transforms into something deeply significant. Let's make this practical, because understanding matters, but application is where real transformation takes place. First, Pay attention to your own pace. Most people rush without even realizing it, speaking quickly, moving quickly, reacting quickly. But when you naturally ease into a slower rhythm, everything shifts. Next time you find yourself in a calm interaction, notice your breathing, let it settle. Allow pauses to exist instead of rushing to fill every silence. Hold soft, relaxed eye contact without forcing it. You'll start to notice a genuine shift in the emotional atmosphere around you. Second, focus on presence. This one is powerful. People can sense when your attention is split, and they can just as easily feel when you're fully there, not trying to impress, not overthinking, simply present. That kind of presence generates a sense of safety, and safety is exactly what allows emotional openness to take root. I once spoke with a woman in her late 50s who shared a moment she never forgot. Nothing dramatic occurred, no grand gestures, no romantic backdrop, just a quiet conversation with someone she trusted. At one point, he simply paused, looked at her with calm attention, and didn't rush a single thing. She said it felt as though time itself slowed down. On the surface, nothing obvious happened, yet emotionally, everything did. That's the power of psychological tension. And to be clear, this has nothing to do with pressure or discomfort. It isn't about manufacturing uncertainty in a negative sense. It's about leaving room for curiosity, awareness, and emotional buildup. This tension lives in the space between intention and action. When that space is honored, the mind leans in. It grows curious, engaged, emotionally invested. This is exactly where subtle gestures start carrying real meaning. Now let's talk about body language, because it shapes everything we've covered so far. Humans are constantly reading nonverbal signals, posture, eye contact, breathing, movement. When your body language stays calm and grounded, it produces an entirely different emotional response than when it's tense or hurried. Confidence in this context isn't about dominance. It's about ease, feeling comfortable inside your own presence, moving with intention rather than urgency. The brain is remarkably sensitive to emotional tone. If your energy feels calm and steady, even small gestures carry weight. If it feels scattered or forced, even larger actions lose their impact. So it isn't about doing more, it's about how you show up. Let's tie this all together. Real connection emerges when multiple signals align at once: touch, proximity, warmth, presence, and timing. When these elements come together organically, the brain interprets the moment as meaningful, something worth holding on to. That's exactly why subtlety so often creates more impact than intensity. Subtle moments invite the mind to engage, to imagine, to genuinely feel. Before we continue, take a second to like this video if it's resonating with you, and if you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss these deeper conversations. Now consider this. What if the most powerful part of attraction isn't what you actively do, but what you allow to build? What if connection lives inside the pauses, the quiet awareness, the moments where nothing obvious seems to be happening but everything is being felt underneath? Once you start noticing this, you can't unsee it. And there's an even deeper layer here. What makes a moment powerful isn't only the action itself, it's the meaning the brain assigns to it. Underneath everything, the mind is quietly asking, is this safe? Does this matter? When both answers come back yes, something opens naturally, without any force behind it. This is exactly why certain areas of the body feel different. They're not only physically sensitive, psychologically, they're more personal. These aren't spaces we let just anyone enter. So when someone does enter that space, the brain registers it as meaningful. It isn't simply contact, it's access. And access ties directly back to trust. When approached slowly and respectfully, the mind doesn't resist. It leans in. It begins associating that person with comfort, safety, and understanding. Compare that to rushed behavior. When things move too quickly, the brain reacts instead of responding, and reaction tends to carry tension with it. But when moments unfold gradually, the brain stays open and receptive. This is exactly where anticipation becomes so powerful. Anticipation isn't merely waiting, it's engagement. It's the mind actively involving itself in what might happen next. Picture sitting beside someone in calm, comfortable silence, no pressure. Then slowly they shift slightly closer, just enough for you to register it. Then nothing. A pause. But inside that pause, your awareness sharpens. You notice their breathing, the warmth, the energy filling the space. That pause isn't empty, it's brimming with possibility. And this is exactly where so many people go wrong. They rush to fill that space immediately. But that space is the moment itself. When you let it exist, even briefly, the mind grows more engaged. It starts to feel, not just observe. None of this works, though, without the right internal state. You cannot fake calm presence. Your body always communicates the truth beneath it. So how do you actually build it? Start with awareness, your breathing, your posture, your pace. When your breath slows, your nervous system follows suit. Your movements grow smoother, more intentional,